All right, so now I've restarted the recording. That'll allow me to separate the presentations easily, I hope, with luck. Um, I'm going to stop presenting.
All right, great. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'm not seeing anything yet, though, but I'm hearing you fine.
All right, give me just a sec.
One. Boom.
Let me know if you can see that.
We can see it. Hold on just a second. What have I been giving you guys? Um,
I think 10 minutes.
10 minutes, and then that's just when I'm giving you a warning, and then you guys go on from there if you need to. But I'm
Right.
giving you just to mark the 10 minutes. Um, Seems like I should be doing something else right now. Give me just a second to figure it out. I'm feeling lost a little bit. I got my COVID shot, my last one on Wednesday. And yesterday I didn't feel bad, but I kind of felt fuzzy all day. So now I'm trying to recover, which is a little bit whiny for everything. I got the Moderna.
Feeling a little better.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're good. Where's the form that I need? Ah, there we go. Presentation evaluation. All right. Yes, you can get from my end. You can get started whenever you're ready. Anybody else? Everybody else ready?
Okay, well, I hope we're all good then.
Yep.
Um,
Knock it out.
all right, so hi guys, my name is Nicholas Yao, and the project I've been working on this semester is Exounder. I've included the code down there just in case you needed it. So to start off real quick, this project was or is made for Arcos. I'm currently the only open source software student that's working on it. Everybody else is doing this for Arcos. I'm not taking Arcos for credit, so all my contributions are for this class. Our project lead is Sneha. If for some reason you'd like to get in contact with her at all, please let me know. I can definitely forward her to you. Okay, so what is Exounder? Exounder is an online calendar where professors and students can see dates and deadlines for multiple classes. The main idea is that if you're a professor, you can set up your class on this website and have all relevant dates and deadlines, like for example, exams or homeworks set up so that anybody who's a part of your class would automatically see that on their calendars. If you're a student, you're probably part of multiple classes. And if your professors set it up on your end, when you look at your calendar, you'd see all of the related events to you on that calendar. Here on the right, you can kind of see what the calendar looks like right now. This is a monthly view, and it's been something that we've been working on. The main motivation for this project is to help students and professors organize themselves. If you've ever found yourself looking back at the syllabus to make sure that there wasn't a homework due in an hour or an exam the next day, then this is probably something that you'd be interested in. To talk about semester goals, it's kind of important that we try to get a minimum viable product. Professor Turner has been sort of pushing this on us that we should try to deploy as soon as possible, or by the end of the semester at least. We didn't quite get there, but we're actually pretty close. So these are some of the goals and some of the progress that we've made on it. For one, building a working calendar with multiple views. In that previous slide, you saw a monthly view, but we also have a weekly view and a daily view. So essentially zooming in on the calendar a little bit. Something really important, and this is mostly what I did, connecting to the database for event settings, login, etc. Previously, prior to the start of the semester, there wasn't really a way to do those database operations that would be very important for us. Keeping events in the database is going to be how we're moving through with storing all that data, right? So that's mostly what I did. We also set up a professor page, so with the ability to actually add and edit those events. So not only did we get the database itself working, but now from the front end side of things, you can actually push those changes. The main thing holding us back right now, I'm not much of a front end person, so I didn't put too much work into this, but rendering events onto the calendar, that's the main thing. We're pretty much everything surrounding that is working, like getting events, getting all the details related to events. The calendar itself is working. Now it's just a matter of actually taking those details and putting them nicely on the calendar. And that's pretty much the only thing holding us back from deployment for the most part. Okay, so to talk about project organization, our repository is on GitHub. Since our team is relatively small, we did everything on a shared repository with some branches. We didn't really run into any commit issues or conflicts, which is, I guess, we're quite lucky for. But moving forward, if this project were to grow, we'd probably move into a blessed repository, right? Our license is BSD2 clause, which is quite permissive. We wanted to let anybody who wanted to fork this project, for example, do whatever they like. In terms of communication, we mostly communicated through Discord. Sneha wanted to keep that private for our co-students. So as an alternative, we opened discussions on the GitHub space. So hopefully conversations can happen there. Continuous integration, I got this set up to test our Node.js server. There on the top right, you can kind of see it, just 2 example workflow runs working. Very simple, just updating the actual workflow and then updating the documentation. You can see both the tests are actually working. In terms of other documentation, contributor guidelines are there now, code of conduct is there now, style guidelines are there. This wasn't there prior to the start of the semester, mostly because it was a really small team, but hopefully moving forward, this will put people in the right direction. And we also have our blog on the Mattermost space, not Mattermost, the Arcos website. In terms of contributions made by our team this semester, we got the database successfully hosted online. Previously, it was entirely through a Raspberry Pi, which is interesting, but now we don't have to worry about that anymore. We got REST API calls to the database working through SQLize, which is our ORM. The calendar now has different views. So here, for example, on the right, this is the weekly view as opposed to the monthly view we saw a little earlier. Continuous integration is now working, so we can test several database calls. There's now lots of documentation available on the wiki. We have dark mode, and we also experimented with CAS a little bit, which would be super convenient if, say, you can just log into the website via your RPI email, and all of your classes would be pulled automatically. And on the bottom right there, you can kind of see sort of what we're hoping the events would look like. There are 4 examples right there, say exam 3, exam 4, homework assist, and some just random tests. But you can kind of see they're all sorted by date, and that would help us when it actually comes to putting them on the calendar. In terms of future goals, adding more tests to ensure correctness for continuous integration would be great. Running events on the calendar, again, CAS login would be really convenient. Not necessary, but super convenient. There are some security issues in general. Like we did build a bunch of REST API calls, so we want to make sure that those are being done by people who should be doing them, and deployment, of course. And mainly the main thing holding us back from deployment is rendering events on the calendar. So hopefully we can get that working soon. Okay, but that's about it from me. Thank you guys so much. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Convenient because I'm gonna have to share that.
You can't hear us. You can't hear me. All right. Any questions for Nick? Boylek 3 is on deck. Nick, the one is, there's 2 of them on there so far. Can it export to .ics and is linking with the register stuff like final schedule a future idea?
Yeah, so to answer the ICS question, we definitely have not implemented that yet, but we are thinking of ways to get this calendar into separate formats, for example, say Google Calendars, right? So that is a future goal for sure.
And what about
is linking with register? Is linking with register stuff like final schedule a future idea? Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of what we're going for with CAS experimentation. That's what one of our teammates was working on the entire time, was trying to figure out if we could do that linking so that um, pulling stuff like schedules just in general on top of maybe a final schedule would be great. Sure, even submitting too.
Submitting might be easier. They're more accommodating than the registrar sometimes. So I have
Yeah,
a
I can
question.
imagine.
I have one question while we're waiting for Kevin to come on board. Are you almost set, Kevin? It might, Prasant. I don't know. Did we have I think
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I know. I have it open. I'm just pretty much whenever you're
Okay.
good, I can share.
Cool. All right. Maybe maybe one of our submittee team can type something into chat about the submittee calendar feature. One question I wanted to ask was, if the calendar view is the thing that's holding you up, would it be possible just to show the events in time order, in just a simple text listing? Because that would get you to minimum viable product.
Right. Yeah, that's we actually do essentially have that working. I had a screenshot down there where all the events were listed in order for a specific individual,
Yep.
which means that it's not necessarily attached to a single class either.
Right.
But I figure that would kind of be an inconvenient view, maybe. But I mean, technically it works.
Well, see, that's the thing though, is that the minimum viable product, the idea of doing that, not to lecture, you guys did a good job. But the idea of the minimum viable product is to get something out there so people can give you feedback, right? So it's okay to get something that works that's not optimal, because the thought is that they will tell you the right way to go for the optimal, and it's better to get feedback early than late. But that said, engineers do not like to do that, and I include computer scientists and everybody else in that engineering mode as well. They like to have a finished product out there. So this is a standard kind of way of doing things. So anyway, good job. Any more questions for submittee or Exalander, since we're hitting some submittee questions as well? All right. If not,
Thank you very much.
let us proceed with resume.
I just want to make sure is everyone that I don't know if everyone that's gonna say something is on the stage. If there's
Do we have an issue, people?
I just don't know if there's the right people on the stage other than just the four I see in the top left. Is there like other people in the stage?
I am not seeing anyone else. So, are we having problems getting it?
I mean, I can just kind of. I mean, I don't want to just have to speak for everybody's, stuff and all that. But if it's so,
Well, let's see. So who's
three other people? Is Christine and Zach and Lily are gonna join? So
okay?
I mean, if they want to hop off.
We should have enough now.
Okay, I think they can join.
Christine,
Seems like they might be having issues joining on the stage. If that's the case, I can just kind of talk through the slides, but that's fine.
Watch Alone was nuked in the update. That's horrible. Although it is good for people. Now I'm seeing Watching Alone still. All right. Zach has now joined.
Zach joined. Okay. Yep. Okay.
And Christine has joined apparently, although I'm not seeing her. Okay, good. Let's proceed.
And there's the little identifier in the chat. So, all right. Well, hello everybody. So my name is Kevin, and this is Resume, and hopefully you get to hear from Zach and maybe Christine and Lily later, but we'll see. So some of the background, like I mentioned in the mid-semester presentation was just the goal of this is to make a website that you may want to just put on your resume to give to employers. And especially, people want to make a website if they're not tech savvy. So, the idea is to be able to have, maybe some themes of what the website may look like. And then say you want a page that, it's all your personal information, your resume. And then one other idea I had was for like a special terminal that you could upload your projects to, say, so then an employer could run your Python code and see how that works and see, all your little code techniques and things like that. And then once you decide what you're going to have on your website, you just fill in the information that would be appropriate. So you put in your contact information, upload a PDF of your resume, and that kind of thing. And then in general, since this project was starting completely from scratch, just with from the base create React app, it was important to make a lot of the good structure of an open source project with good guidelines and issues and templates, all that kind of stuff. So, that was on top of making the actual product, just making all the background infrastructure of a good project was, an important part of it too. So some of the structure we had was we used an MIT license on GitHub, and we used this blessed repository where everyone had their own fork, and then they could have everyone can reference each other's remotes and then pull from the main master branch when stuff got merged in to keep their stuff up to date. So that was a good style. We had all the README developer guide, code of conduct style guide, used GitHub issues with templates for pull requests, issues, and different kinds of issues if there's a bug, feature, all that kind of stuff. And then we used Discord for just normal chatting, and then we used our blog on the Arcos website for just the weekly blog posts. And so just some of the things that we've gone through, like I mentioned at the start, some of the logistics of the project was adding in some instructions for how to contribute and just how to run the existing parts of the project if you're starting from scratch. Especially the one part in there that I think was useful is having good instructions for how to deal with the blessed repository style, because for me at least it's a lot more confusing at first than just a simple single repository with branches. So making sure there's clear instructions about what's a common workflow of how to work on a new feature and how that would get merged in and all those steps. And then just like I mentioned, other templates for issues and pull requests. The other thing that was nice to have was 2 actions, one for linting to just make sure everything follows the same style for React, and then also to run any tests that we've written in Jest. So all those are run on every commit and pull request. So everything is always going to be nothing should break the main code base. So, and then also just having the cool badges on the README when you open up the main page of the project. And then for the actual website, the one page that I spent some time on was the page selection and having that data stored. So we used React State, and then just having the other buttons on here, which was an interesting thing of figuring out, if you're looking at a website or a mock-up, which is a lot what Christine did, and seeing, okay, what on the page are we going to break up into components? That was a big thing, because, if you look at this page, say this is the mock-up, you're not going to necessarily want to make the whole thing a single component. So it's you have multiple buttons. Well, you can reuse the button component, maybe give it different properties. And that's exactly what it does to have the different styling and all that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of the time I think most of us weren't really familiar with React at all. So it took a little bit of in the beginning to get started, but it was nice to be able to work with all of this. And then sort of the parts that we, the goal, and as we get into the other slides, is not necessarily making, this page look really, really great and have this work for all the different page types. And then even where we input the info, have that work for all the different page types. The goal was to get from one end to the other end. So when you start on this page, you can pick the About Me page, and then you can put all that information in, and then you can see all the information for the About Me page, just so you could really see, from a user's perspective, how you can get through the whole thing. So Christine's just going to show some of the other mock-ups. And I don't know if Christine got on.
Yeah, I made it to the stage.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, like since this was a brand new project, we kind of needed to like determine our vision. So a lot of what I did was making mock-ups, and there's kind of two different types of mock-ups because there's the website that the client like uses, which is Resume, and then the mock-up for the website that gets created and is personalized to them. So I did that a lot of that at the beginning, and it's kind of what we based the rest of our project on. And then I also worked on the information input page, which would be after the client or user decides what pages they want in their website. Then they would go to this information input page and enter all of the like personalized information to them that would populate their website. So I created that, did the CSS styling, and this right now it's only for the About Me page, and there's no backend. But that's what I did.
I'm not hearing. If somebody else is talking, you're muted.
Oh, really? I hear Zach talking. Does Christine? Do you hear Zach talking?
Yeah, I can hear him.
So it's just me,
Interesting. Can you hear me?
and it's just yes, I hear everybody else.
Oh,
Um,
um, I guess I don't really.
yeah, I don't know what to do.
Zach was basically just saying how he, made all the little parts on this page and add the toolbar, which, as you saw in some of the other slides, is what's the word, like propagates to all the other pages too, and has a little animation. And then the goal is maybe once we can get sort of the first part of this working, they can try. He's said he's hosted things on a like personal website or personal other projects on a server, so then we can have it and because then if you're the user, you don't want to necessarily have to run your website on your computer, and if you really aren't that tech savvy, you might not know too much about it. So that is the other appealing part, is then you don't have to worry about that yourself. So that pretty much summed up Zach's slide, I think.
Okay, I mean that's good. I don't know what the heck was going on. So
Yeah.
all right.
That's so strange. That's very strange. Okay, so yeah, and then oh, and Zach also, yeah, I guess you can't talk still, but then sort of this is this is PR up, and I think we'll be able to get it merged by Monday. But this is now the sort of last slide of, you pick the About Me page, you're going to put all your information in, and then this is what will look like after you put in your bio and all your other information. So ideally we'll be able to get that data to transfer. Like Christine said, we don't have like a back end or anything yet, but if we want to use something like JSON server, which is just another NPM package, just to have a fake backend to be able to put some get and post requests, even that. But I don't even think that's the plans for right now. We're just going to try to get just have the data transferred between the components as simple as possible and not even have to worry about a backend. And then the last, I wonder, can you hear Lily?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear everybody but Zach.
That's so weird.
So I created a backend, or more accurately, a pseudo backend for the informational input page. So it does actually have functionality now where whatever the information the user submits it's saved and sent to the About Me page, as you can see, and actually displayed there on top of the template rather than just doing nothing, as well as temporarily putting a way to move between the pages. But I'm hoping to move that functionality to the submit button before I merge this to the main repo.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the things that I had on the progress to start off with, you know, the big things we've had was, you know, being able to pick all the pages and then filling out some of the information. And then also just like I mentioned at the start,
Hello?
had a lot of the just structure of an open source project that's in there. But the biggest thing that I would say I
Gotcha. Can you hear me
the
here?
most from this was just
Okay.
learning a lot of things like
That's
React and
bizarre.
just how to so many ways
Very
you
much
can do
so.
something in CSS, especially like positioning something, and then
All
there's
right,
really good ways
This is a
of
cool
doing
feature,
it,
though.
and a lot
I'm
of
sorry?
bad ways of doing it.
I said this
because
is a
then
cool
you
feature, though.
change
It is
the
a cool
window size
feature.
one bit, and then everything gets messed up. So
It's
that was
interesting that I
really
can talk to you
big
here
learning
and I
thing.
can't hear you the other way.
But yeah, hopefully,
Yeah,
we
not
can,
sure what's going on
you
with
know,
that.
this is the
All right.
starting point with this.
I was
brand
just
new
wanted to see whether there was
project.
something
Maybe
else
we'll be
wrong,
able
but it looks
to,
like this is
you know,
working fine. So
hopefully soon
Right.
get something
thanks.
that people
We'll
Yep.
use to show off their
move on.
show off their resume.
If I could listen to Kevin.
Thanks for
Yeah.
watching, everybody.
All right. Any questions for Kevin? Or actually for the whole team? Kevin, Zach.
But
By the
not
way,
Zach, because you can't.
well, so I was just going to throw something out there. I just whispered to Zach while you at the end of your presentation. I clicked on him and whispered to him. I can hear him fine. I don't know what's going on with the room.
That
thing.
is very strange.
It was weird as anything. So,
yeah, no, he just said something again. But okay, so the embedded terminal seems like a cool idea, but could be an exploit potentially. Yeah, that's I would think, I've never really done anything like that, but just kind of in my other experience of thinking, having some kind of Docker container where all of that is, you kind of map everything from, if you give it some source files of say Python code that you're running, that'll get mapped into some Docker container, and then that's hopefully isolated on its own. So even if you do delete the root directory or something like that, it's just gonna mess up the Docker container, not break down the whole server. But that would definitely be important to make sure it works before before anything breaks. So people from using web crawlers on the sites you make using Resume. I mean, I don't think so. I feel like it could be honestly good for certain web crawlers if, kind of the point of, at least from my perspective, is to be like your resume and personal information of people trying to find your, find a job for you or something like that. So, but it is interesting to, note about how much personal information to put on there. And I guess that sort of brings up the whole license information of like, if someone makes this website with my, like, this code we're making, and then they put all their bank account information because they're dumb, and maybe you shouldn't do that online. It's like, well, make sure we're not liable and all that kind of stuff. So it does make, that is interesting about the whole, a web crawler thing is make sure you're not responsible maybe, or, make sure you understand who's responsible.
Thanks for listening to the Adam Carolla Show on Podcast One.
Any other questions? And just a reminder, there's the identifier for the Google form, resume. Oh, you're muted.
all right.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, something went off in my background, so I muted myself to keep until I could fix it, and then of course I forget to unmute. All right, nice job. I do like the fact that we have more and more of you guys doing things like linting and using some of the other tools. The tools are getting so much easier to use to do some kind of testing, be it linting or something. So it's good to see that becoming a theme. All right. I think we are at Trevor Bisson.
Yep.
Is
Hey,
that close
you
to
hear me?
the correct pronunciation? Yes.
Yeah,
I can
Bisson.
even I can hear you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm ready whenever you are.
You can go.
All right. So the project I'm going to be presenting today is Venue. No, that's not spelled wrong. That is the new name for the project. This is the project identifier here. I am indeed Trevor Bisson. Our project lead includes Ethan, and other members who are not in this class is Daniel and Thomas Dukeshire. And this presentation was based off a presentation that they gave for Arcos. So what is Venue? You may know Venue if you are in CS classes, which all of you are. It's a platform that allows instructors to give students credit for attending events. Instructors can sign on and create courses and events for students to join, and they join via a QR code that's generated. And once students scan the QR code, they can sign in and verify that they attended a lecture or a meeting. This is based off an old project. And so the old project was Venue, and now the new project is VenEU. Still pronounced the same, but regardless.
Venue.
Yeah,
With a-
Venue.
with a French accent.
Yes, exactly. What's the difference between the new and old projects? Well, there's a complete UI redesign and a backend redesign. A whole bunch of technology was changed between the old project and the new project, and we also included a new ticket system. So our stack for the new Venue is a Maven stack, which includes MongoDB for our backend, Express for a Node.js framework. We have Vue as our front end, and Node to host servers and run the site and things like that. Management and organization for the project. So we use a Bless repository with an MIT license. So basically we create a new branch for each major edition or a new pull request based off of how you want to do it. So an example of this was we added a email notification system branch, just as an example. We also do code reviews before merges. Communication for our project occurred in a Discord channel. Actually, Professor Wes Turner is a part of this. He probably knows about it. We have a whole bunch of documentation for our project, including community guidelines, code of conduct, style guidelines, and also some developer tutorials and examples to help new developers get associated with the project. We do also have an issue tracker. It's not really filled out. In fact, I actually have the only issue inside the issue tracker, but it is indeed there. We also have Docker. Granted, though, it's not super heavily supported. We spent most of our work focusing on actually adding stuff to the project. And we do indeed have a live site, which we will get to later in the presentation. Okay, so the progress that we made in the spring of 2021, we added the QR code functionality, which can be shared, screen shared, or you can scan through your phone. And we do have our ticket system. There also is a live site, which is currently now running. We also added a email notification system for course sharing and when you initially sign up to the course. We have updated documentation, including community guidelines, the tutorials, things that I said earlier. Also, there was a calendar functionality added, with lectures being added to the calendars as well as events and things like that. And we also have updated UI and page additions, including user flow. And actually, this GIF or GIF here, depending on how you say it, is somewhat out of date because we added a dark mode to the site. And so you'll see later on the difference. My individual contributions to the site was, I do have full stack experience, but I was new to using Vue.js and MongoDB, including GraphQL, things like that. So I spent a lot of my time learning those things. I also created the community documentation, including the code of conduct, the contribution guidelines, and the style guidelines. And then also I created the settings module, which you could see a screenshot here, to be implemented later on in the development process. Future goals for the site include, this might be a lofty goal, but we would like to become a full-fledged learning environment system, possibly like an LMS replacement. Granted, there could be some security concerns here, but again, that would be much further down the line as a problem to have to worry about. We'd also like to possibly interact with Zoom and WebEx API. So something where after you scan your QR code, it opens up a link to join the WebEx lecture that the professor is streaming at that same time. We'd also like to calendarize more, so adding things like assignments to enhance the usability of the calendar feature in Venue. And also, we'd like to add more UI and user flow enhancements to just make the project better. These are some of my contribution URLs. And then here, if we go, I can actually pull up a demo here. Should be right here. I don't know how well you can see that. So this is the live site currently. We have two options. I'll just show you what the sign up would look like. So here, if you wanted to sign up, you could send in your email. And once you submit that, you'd get an email like this that says, hey there, welcome to Venue, click below. And then once you click that, it'll take you to the sign up and full registration. Once you actually log in, which I do have an account here, this is what the home screen looks like. This is kind of the home screen for everybody, but some features right now are turned on for me. So I am listed technically as an instructor, as you can see here. So I could create a new course, name, description, department number, things like that. That would eventually appear on the calendar. Sorry. We also have previous check-ins that you have hosted. As you can see here, did a bunch last night to make sure it was working. And then eventually here, you would have your assignments, which have not yet been implemented, but would be coming soon. And now for the coolest part, we have the actual check-in here. So if you want to on your phone, you should be able to scan this QR code. It will take you to the Venue app. You fill out a first name and a last name, and then scan it on the website. And you can see there, I just checked into the class. If other people want to try and do that too, they can as well. And there we go. Kevin Boyle just checked in. So from here, a professor or teacher could then download attendance, which would create a brand new CSV. Oh, sorry. Let me open up this CSV real quick. Make sure it's the right one. Here we go. So this is the CSV for the attendance we just created. As you can see here, we have a first, last name, a unique user ID code, and a code for that user for this attendance check-in. Yeah, that's really all we got here. Are there any questions? And I'll leave this up if people want to try it out and keep on checking it. I know Arcos uses Venue, but have any other professors class reached out to use it? Not to my knowledge. I think since this is still not really fully ready for production, we haven't really announced it yet. But I'm sure this is a state that could be usable for other classes and professors to use it. Any other questions?
So this isn't really a question, but it is a comment. We've been using this for a couple of semesters now. I think actually for almost a year. This version looks much more polished than what we've been using. So that's one of the advantages of getting out, a demo or a minimum viable product at some point early. It gives you, you can see how things are used, and it gives you the opportunity to follow what needs to be followed, as opposed to getting off on sidetracks. We did, just to throw this out, you notice that the QR code, as people check in, two things I want to mention. As people check in, it changes the QR code, I believe, which is kind of interesting. And the other part is so we did a little bit of a little low level stress test on that in ARCOs earlier this semester. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was this is there's 2 versions of Venue out there. I guess 3 versions now. The one we're using in class, the new Venue, and one that forked off earlier. So this just kind of shows how, sometimes you can't control what happens in an open source environment. We had people who wanted to go commercial and wanted to start embedding their secret sauce kind of stuff in it. And they're actually been marketing pretty heavily around. Then we have this one that's continued on the, continued down the open source trail so far. But I do think at some point there's a plan to try to commercialize this one as well. And then we have the open source one we've been using. I think we're going to probably migrate to this one for next semester or going forward as soon as it's ready for demo. Yeah, it's an interesting little exercise in open source environments.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
This, by the way, looks much more polished, and the fact that when I read the QR code the first time, it took me to the Venue site as opposed to having to be on the Venue site and then scanning. That was much improved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, personally, this is just me, but I know I do like dark mode a lot more than light mode, and I think this is a lot easier to look at.
Yeah, in the old days, we used to do dark mode by turning off the lights.
Dimming the monitor.
Yeah, and using the amber terminal instead of the white terminal. But to each their own.
To each their own.
Yeah, I prefer this as well. All right, good job. I have no more questions. There are like an infinite number of versions, Nick, as far as I can tell. Venue's like, it's like rabbits, man. It's just, you have 2 of them and now you have more.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I should be finding out who's next. No, I should be submitting this first, and then I should find out who's next before I forget to submit it, and then I've got to make something up. All right. I've got 4 zeros and an 8 coolies. Are you here? Anybody here? Okay. I think while we try to work this one out, I think what we're going to do is move on to 0007 Zirm. Matt, are you here? I would say
Yep, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
I was going to say that sounds like a yes. Yes. Are you the only one presenting, Josh?
No, Matt's with me here as well.
Oh, okay. Because I'm seeing your picture and I'm hearing Matt's voice, which was,
Oh yeah, we're both presenting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to share my screen now.
No issues. Just making sure I know what's going on, or at least that I have some ability to pretend. Okay, so let me paste that into the chat, unless somebody has already. As far as I know, we are ready for you to go.
All right, great. Hi, we are Evaxim. This project was Matt Czar and me, Josh Malik, and yeah, we're just gonna get a little bit into it. Next. Next slide. Nice. Okay, so basically what we did, this was originally a hackathon project developed by Matt and a couple of his friends. They ended up winning second place at the Hack RPI 2019 hackathon. Fundamentally, what EVACSIM is deterministic simulation software at its core. It uses graph theory to model effects of natural disasters, and with that, it'll find optimal evacuation routes for different natural disasters. And in this case, it was hurricanes during the hackathon. So the way it works at its core is you would feed in cities as nodes and infrastructure as edges. We would have these large CSV files where you could feed it in, and using those data points, you were able to run a simulation of a hurricane on these models. And then from that hurricane simulation, you could actually use a flow algorithm. And with that, you find evacuation routes on geographic data. And what the simulation would actually output is a KML file, which opens up in Google Earth Pro. So you would need that downloaded. And what it would do is actually display geographic data. It renders it in Google Maps as pins, and you'll have basically just little lines connecting it, and you'll have your optimal evacuation route plotted throughout the pins. Yeah, and again, it won second place overall at Hack RPI in 2019. Yeah, so next slide. Yeah, so what it was fundamentally at our core, we are using Python. Our communication platform was Discord, and we use GitHub discussions as well. Discord just because it was easy and we both use it anyways. Our license was MIT. We felt it was the best for the situation. We use PEP8 for our style guide. We have a very active issue tracker. We implemented unit tests recently and they are all passing, so that's great. And we have well-written contribution guidelines and code of conduct for the project. So everything is up to code there. Yeah, and next. So our goals when approaching this project was to take this original project that was, written in Java and JavaScript and Ample, which was basically hacked together in 24 hours or over the course of a little while, and rewired it completely using Python. What we wanted to do was, of course, get everything on the same level as it was previously. We wanted parity with the futures. And we also wanted to make the evacuation route algorithm to be much more effective. The reason we chose Python was because we felt it could be more modular and a lot cleaner. Ample is not the easiest to work with and the easiest to understand. It's a lot of math, so we wanted to make it easier for people to understand. We also wanted to allow modeling of other natural disasters. So, earthquakes, floods, that kind of stuff, rather than just hurricanes. So what that takes at the core is making event properties generic, not just hurricanes, which means you have a level of modularity not achieved in the previous version. And what else we wanted to do is, on the previous version, we were exporting to KML, which wasn't that elegant because you needed to have Google Earth installed to be able to view any kind of data. We wanted to build the front end to be able to just view data inside our program or in the browser, just to avoid the need for Google Earth and proprietary code. And we also wanted to make this an actual open source project. So we wanted communication channels, code of conduct, contribution guidelines, an actual license for the project as well, and unit tests just on the core. And yeah, we're going to get a little bit into how we did as a core.
Yeah, so my name is Matt. I'll be taking over from here. So regarding the progress that we made this semester, first off, the project has been fully rewritten in pure Python. And like Josh said, we believe this is a big improvement because it'll be a lot easier for new contributors to get started with the project because pretty much everyone knows Python, whereas not a whole lot of people know Ample, which we used before. Feature parity has been achieved with legacy version in which cities, infrastructure, natural disasters can be modeled. The simulation can be run on these models and the resulting evacuation data can be exported to a KML file. It can also be exported to a GeoJSON file now as well. Additionally, the flow algorithm has been reimagined and they rewrote it completely to make resulting evacuation routes a lot more accurate than they were previously. And we also improved the styling of objects in the export KML file, so you can more easily distinguish what each city's evacuation routes look like. We made natural disasters generic, which is also a big improvement over the legacy version, in which we could only model hurricanes. To accomplish this, we made natural disasters modeled using polygons to represent the area of effect at a particular point in time. We also created a pretty simple front end that can be used to select the models and to run the simulation. And we have a model viewer that's still in development to replace the dependency on an external Earth browser like Google Earth. In addition, we improved the default model of Troy and surrounding cities that the simulation is run on by default by making it a lot more complex with more cities and more infrastructure. We also changed some attributes like populations and population capacities to more realistic values for the cities themselves. And we replaced the old natural disaster representation with a totally new one with the new disaster modeling system that we talked about previously. The project documentation has also been updated. We added a lot more information on the development of the application, new instructions on how to create the models, and some instructions for new contributors on how to set up the application and run it. We also created contribution guidelines and a code of conduct, which offers guidance on how contributors can get started and how they're expected to behave. And because we liked it so much, the code of conduct is actually adapted from the Arcos code of conduct. In addition, we created issue and pull request templates for the repository. We have separate templates for reporting bugs and a separate one for requesting features. Additionally, we created and enforced a style guide, which is adapted from the official Python PEP 8 style guide with just a few changes to suit our needs better. And we use Pylon to enforce that style guide. And finally, we created a test suite with unit tests for the core functionality of all the model objects, as well as the main simulation functionality. And we also set up some continuous integration with GitHub Actions that automatically runs these tests on a variety of different Python versions when the code is, when new code is pushed or a pull request is opened. So now I'll show you guys a quick demo of how it all works. So here I'm just typing out the run command. Hopefully you guys can see that on the small screen, but you can specify arguments like the node file that you want to load, the edges file, the disaster file, as well as the directory where these models exist. You can also enable a more verbose logging mode, which will, when you do that, you can now see all the evacuation routes have been printed out. For example, you can see that we should send 15,000 people from Troy to Brunswick, 5,000 from Troy to East Greenbush, 30,000 from Troy to Albany, et cetera, for all the affected cities, which in this case were Troy and Latham were the affected cities by that natural disaster. After that, a KML file gets exported, which you can open up in Google Earth, which I'll do right now. And here you can see the natural disaster, which is modeled by those white polygons, and then the evacuation routes for each city is modeled with the blue and red lines respectively for Troy and Latham. Yeah, so that's pretty much all we got. Thanks everybody for listening. And on the next few slides, which I'll post in the Discord, we just have listed out all of our contributions for me and for Josh through the semester. Do we have any questions?
Cool. Any questions for Matt or Josh? So here's mine. It seems like you need a big database of places in order to make this work. Is this something that you can get from public data automatically, or conceptually, could you get this automatically from public data, or do you need to do something like crowdsourcing to get all of this information together? Or is there a third possibility?
Theoretically, it would definitely be possible to set up some kind of, I guess, like a scraper or something to scrape this data from different places and assemble like the city model and the edges model to model the the cities and the infrastructure between them. We haven't really thought about that too much. Our idea was that we would create this and then we'd let whoever wants to use it, probably researchers, create the models themselves and then run the models. But theoretically, you definitely could put together a kind of like a web scraper to scrape that data and put together the models themselves, because the models aren't too difficult. to put together. They're really just CSV files with columns like the name of the city, the latitude, the longitude, and the population, the capacity.
So do you need something like evacuation routes or something too, or that's not strictly necessary?
No, the only things that you need to provide the simulation are the cities, the edges between them, which would be the infrastructure between them, like the roads, and if there's any alternate ways of getting between them, like ferry routes or something like that. You could feed that into the simulation as well as the natural disaster data, and that's really all you need to provide. We'll come up with the evacuation routes, which are going to be routes that you take along those infrastructure that you provided to us in order to get out of the affected areas.
So do your routes have capacity or that?
Yeah, the constraints that we have on the infrastructure between cities are capacity and also travel time.
Okay.
So yeah, we have capacities on the cities as well as capacities and travel times for the routes.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I was just trying to. This is a very interesting one. I think I remember this one. 2019. Yeah. Anyway, good job. Thank you. Any more questions? Now that I've bogarted all the questions. All right. Do we have coolies 00008 coolies available yet? I'm not seeing anything. If you're there, please type something into the chat so I can pull you up after the next one. But that missing, let's go with 0006 Hong J8. Okay, I'm seeing people come on, but I'm not hearing anything yet. So is the sound broken again, or we just don't have anything yet?
We just have one more to come in.
Okay, and I am hearing you, so that is a positive. That was weird. I'm still kind of trying to speculate a mechanism for that.
All right.
I think we are ready whenever you guys are.
No, we can't, John.
Hey, hello? Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Oh, hold on. I can't hear you.
Wait, I also cannot hear.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great. So John and I are roommates, so we're going to be presenting over the singular account. Just as an FYI.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Professor Turner, are we good to go?
You're good to go.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. We're Royal Flush. I'm Jin.
I'm Dennis.
I am Ella.
I'm Justin.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Nicholas. I'm Zach.
So, what is Royal Flush, right? Royal Flush is a web application that allows users to play pokers with their friends and online. But unlike most poker online apps, we're a little bit different. We collect stats on the individual players and how they play. This way, we can use this data to help these players improve their poker gameplay.
So in regards to the organization of our project, this project was initially started by myself, Justin, Dennis, and John in our fall 2019 semester while taking software design and documentation. Around half of our code base is from that semester, though we have made numerous changes to progress towards our new goals and ideas. This repo is hosted on GitHub, and currently the documentation is located in our README and the comments are our files. Though some more written documentation in a separate directory is in the works. For recording various goals and bugs throughout the semester, we use the GitHub issue tracker to help keep the entire team updated.
So because this was a continuation project from previous semester, our goals have changed. We wanted to create an easy to use interface where users can play poker, and we would construct the game itself on the back end. In addition to that, we wanted to design and produce an entirely new page for the game. And furthermore, we want to revamp and improve the original design and of the original website, so it'd be more user-friendly, as well as add more statistics in regards to the game of poker. And finally, want to implement unit testing so that cases under the certain enhancements that we have would always be covered.
So in terms of what we were able to accomplish specifically, so first off, we were able to construct most of the back game pretty successfully, like the game works pretty well. However, we set this at 90% because there are a couple of corner cases that we probably haven't caught yet. Next, for the front end, we were able to design and create a front end that we were pretty satisfied with, and that's why we had that at 85. However, for the overall point, we had that 50 because we struggled with connecting this backend to our front end. So when we were working with the backend, we just were testing it with a really simple HTML page. And after the front end was completed, we tried for about a week or two to try to put them together, but we struggled with that. So that's why we put that at 50. Next, we set out to revamp and improve upon some designs, and we were able to do this pretty well. So we have that at 100. We were also able to add more statistics. So originally we had 4, and then we added a few more stats. And finally, unit testing wasn't really one of our forefront goals. So that's why, unfortunately, we only had about like 1 or 2 basic testing cases. So that's why we have this at 20%. So I guess what I contributed specifically was, I guess my main role was the project manager. So I set up meetings and assigned and created tasks for members to complete. I also worked as a mediator between the front and back end team. I also helped design the UI. And also when I wasn't doing managerial stuff, I also contributed to the back end. I was the one who was in charge of trying to connect the front end to the back end to the new front end. I also added new functionality so that more metrics would be collected, and I also created more stats from these new metrics that we were able to get.
So in terms of my contributions, I was the primary front-end developer for this new game UI. So I utilized the Vue framework to construct this new page for multiplayer gameplay. It doesn't have the capability to host a live game yet, but eventually it will. So I consulted with team lead Jin for design specifications, and I implemented the components to those specifications.
So for my contributions, the first half of the project, I was working with Justin on testing and validating features on the website. This including error testing and adding issues to the Royal Flush GitHub. In addition to that, I tracked the progression of these issues I created for the team. The second part of this project experience, I was mostly focused on adding new poker stats to the existing statistics. This included the best win statistic, which essentially finds the hand that you win with the most, and several more raise frequency statistics in the game of poker.
So my job was to redesign the backend portion of the game itself. So the original repository that we forked off of wasn't exactly a poker client, it was a companion app. So what you'd do is you'd play poker in real life and then use the site to record what was going on. So that entailed that there would be a host who would be recording all the actions and everybody else would be players and only recording their hands. So I took that base and kept some of the core functions and added a lot of new ones in order to make it a functioning poker site by itself, where you can actually play poker through the site itself instead of needing to play it in real life and then also record on the side. So in order to do this, I also had to redo all the connections between all the players because there's no longer one single host that knows what's going on. Every single player needs to know what's happening at all times and have all the updates whenever somebody does anything. So I also had to redesign that connection system.
For my contributions, I was primarily a front-end developer responsible for revamping the design of the old site. So I refactored all of our old HTML, CSS, JavaScript code, and created new designs for all the old pages, which included the login page, register page, join game page, hand history page, and the poker stats page. And as you can see here before, we kind of had this a lot of convolution on our old site. And afterwards, we were able to put everything in a header and just have an input field for join game so the users can just instantly join without having to read a bunch of text.
For my contributions, I did some backend development, but predominantly worked with documentation. I helped create a supplemental specification, which is a document for listing all requirements of a project, such as functionality, usability, and interface requirements, and also worked on a design approach document, breaking down our tech stack and how different aspects of the site interact with each other. Then for the backend portion of my work, I completely Dockerized that application. So now instead of users cloning our repo and installing all the necessary packaging, users can access our application locally by downloading the image to Docker.
So for my contributions, I'm currently working on and have worked on a little bit of some automating testing scripts in Python. And I'm using Selenium and Beautiful Soup to interact with our website just like a user would. And I'll go through a bunch of user test cases just to make sure everything's working and up to date whenever someone makes a new commit. I'm also working on running a code of conduct, and at the very end, I will also try to review code to ensure that the coding style is very consistent.
For our tech stack, for the front end, we used HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, and Vue. And for our backend, we had a MongoDB database that we connected through via Express and Node.js. Like I said before, we Dockerized our application, and we use GitHub for our code repository as well as issue tracking.
So now I'm going to take us through a quick little demo of the site. So this is hosted on Node, so I'm going to go ahead and run the server real quick. And then I'm going to open it up on one of our websites here, or on one browser here. So I already have an account, so I'm going to log in. I'm going to use a predefined password and email. So this is the homepage. And before I join a game, I'm going to do this on another browser so that I can have two people playing. So now that I have two people logged in, I'm going to go ahead and type in a game code. So if a game code doesn't already exist, or like if the game code that you type doesn't already exist, it'll just create a new room. So I'm going to go ahead and join ASDF, and I'm going to be the only person in here. So right now, nothing's happening because there's only one person in here and you can't play by yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and join with the other person. And as you can see, when this person joins, then the player's updates on both pages, as well as the code, each individual person's hand, and everything else. So what's going on right here is your hand is this. So as you can, this person who is MM, they have King of Hearts and 2 of Hearts, whereas this person who's Justin has 6 of Spades and Ace of Spades. So right now there's no cards on the table yet because this is still before the first hand is dealt. And right now the action is on Justin. So that means MM, who is this person, cannot play, or they cannot do any actions. So if they try to check or match or fold or anything, it'll just say it's not their turn. So I'm gonna go ahead and check with this person. And once this person checks, the action switches to the next person and it gets recorded in the log. And it gets recorded in the log on this person too, because they need to know that the action's also on as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and check for both of them real quick. And the first couple cards will come out. For now, I'm gonna raise just so we can see what happens. So when I raise, the pot goes up and my stack goes down because I've raised 50. And as you can see on this page, it also gets updated here that this stack went down and the pot went up. So I'm gonna go ahead and match. Of course, these numbers also reflect, and as well as the pot. I'm gonna go ahead and raise again. Now that other cards come out. As you can see in the log, it's also telling you that the turn is out, which indicates the 4th card. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise and match one more time. And then for this last hand, I'm gonna check. So right now the cards on the table are 2, 2, 10, king, 7. So this person's a full house. So yeah, so MM is gonna win this hand. So once I check, that'll be the end of the hand. So as you can see, MM won the hand, which we calculate via the server. Both people will be aware of that, and these stacks will update to reflect that MM is now winning by 150 chips. I'm going to do one more just test run just so we can see the folding mechanic. So I'm going to go ahead and check, and then I'll go ahead and raise maybe 100. I'll have this person match, and I'll have them raise 100 one more time, and I'll have this person fold. So once you fold, of course, the other person is going to win. So we didn't have to go through the rest of the cards. We just know that, okay, if everybody else is folded except for one person, then that person wins. So they won that pot. So before we go into anything else, I'm going to talk about the statistics and the histories. So first, histories. This is just a recording of all the hands we played. And just this little column on the right here indicates whether or not we played, which basically means if we played after the pre-flop, which means the first 3 cards come out, that indicates a yes or a no. So this is just kind of a histories so you can see what you've been playing and what you haven't been playing, so you can kind of see what your range is. And if we go to stats, it'll take a little bit before it calculates. And these are just the stats that we have here. So the first couple, these are all about the pre-flop raises. And because we didn't raise pre-flop at all, we just checked. These are going to be at 0% because we never did it. This is aggression, which indicates how often you raise compared to everything else. And we're at 17% because we checked for most of that. This is percentage of showdowns won, meaning how often we won, and it's at 25% because we lost both those 2 games recently. This is how often we get to that point, and this is the cards that has won us the most number of hands. Once we get more data points in here, these numbers will make more sense. Right now, it doesn't make sense that Queen 6 is the best hand, but those numbers will become more accurate as we get more and more data points in here. So now I'm going to pass it up to Zach, who's going to talk about the front end real quick.
All right. Are you able to see the front end?
Yep.
Cool. So there's, as I mentioned before, there's not too much functionality yet, but once everything is hooked up, you'll be able to play through the CUI. So as you saw before, you can check, call, fold, raise. You have your buy-in. You have your players, which if you are connected, probably one of these would be highlighted for specifically you. And then your moves would show up over here in this log region. But yeah, this is the design we have for right now. I think that might be it. So do we have any questions?
Any questions for Royal Flush? So I have a couple. So first off, how much testing did you guys do by playing poker? Did you get a lot of hands in, or?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to do that stuff as official coursework.
Yep. Yeah, I guess the reason why this project started was because like we got into poker during Summer Arch, and then I guess because of that we just wanted to work on a project that it's also fun to work on.
How close are you to being able to connect your front end with your, because you showed us a demo. I assume that was just the demo was, a minimal front end connected to the database, and now you have this graphical front end. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yep.
So how close are you to be able to hook it together?
We're still running into a couple errors where it's mostly syntactical, like because the basic front end is with just basic HTML and CSS, while the front end that Zach made was made in Vue. So there's still a couple of there's definitely a decent amount of friction trying to connect those together. But once that initial friction is connected, it should once this tiny bump is passed, it should be pretty straightforward.
Okay. Yeah, it seems to me like maybe you need to publish, take a second cut through the API just to make sure you have something sane, and then it shouldn't matter what the front end is to some extent. So that might be a good place to kind of concentrate on when you're trying to make your next round of revisions.
Yep.
Any other questions for Royal Flush? I wasn't sure if you guys were going to be about poker or about water closets and palaces. So I'm kind of glad you went down this route. Okay, that was really bad. Anything else? Do we have Coolies, our missing presenter? If not, well, I'm going to give you guys back 15 minutes of your lives. Excellent job to everyone. We will be working on this. We should have all the data we need now to get your presentations graded, and over the next 3 or 4 days before we give grades on the rest of it, I should have this all published. I think your lab 10 are due to be graded tonight, so I will update Rainbow grades as quickly as I can with both of these grades in. And then we will move toward the end of the semester. Please, please, please be sure to get us your contributions by Monday. It's really easy. It's really hard to find these without you cluing us in where to look, and it's really easy to miss stuff. So if you guys can show us what you have, rather than relying on us to grab it, it will save lots of pain trying to get your grades correct. Both for us and for you. So, please show up and kind of make sure that is done. Other than that, I just wanted to, again, thank you guys. It's been a good semester. I've enjoyed working with you all or teaching you all, and I think we've had some really cool discussions. It's amazing during the course of a semester how many things happen in the open source community. We had a couple of them happen this semester. I think we had some discussion on it. We wrote some blogs on it. So just keep following it, stay with it, and I hope to see you all in Arcos in a future semester. So thank you, and look for updates in Discord as we progress through the grading portion of our program. All right. You're welcome, Prasant. Oh, good. I'm glad. Give us good reviews then. Oh, if you haven't done your review, do your review. They didn't send me a warning that says that I'm supposed to tell you that, so I forget. But please review these things. I think so too, Colton. Hopefully you guys will get a lot out of it, and hopefully we'll get some really cool projects out. It's been a good run.